So prompting. Now this is pretty much the most important section of the whole course to watch. Like you can watch this and then skip all the other sections with AI pretty much, right? So to get started, I'm not going to read all this because it is a lot to read just word for word. But if you want to, there is going to be a link below and you can just click that link and it'll take you to this document and you can read it all yourself, right? So the one thing I worry though is that the role of prompts is pretty much just to guide the AI's output, right? So the more effective prompt that you give the AI, the more or the higher likelihood it has to produce your desired response. Now this is done through prompt engineering, which is pretty much just techniques that bring out the AI's full potential, right? Now, so there are instructional prompts, right? Which pretty much just tell the AI explicitly what to do. So, for example, summarize the following article in one paragraph, right? So, when you provide the AI clear instructions, it knows, okay, so I have to use this article and I have to summarize it in one paragraph, and that's what it's gonna do, right? So, with clear instructions, and if you're specific, right, and you give it the relevant context for the prompt, you get a quality response out, right? So contextual prompts. So a lot of you may not know this, but before with ChatGPT, it had an issue where if you just gave it a basic math problem, right, it couldn't solve it, or it would oftentimes get the answer wrong or use the wrong formula, right? But if you give it the context of you are an expert mathematician, you can then give it the same problem and it would solve it perfectly, right? And that's just because you just gave it context of who it is, right? So another example is, as a medical doctor, explain the symptoms of diabetes to a patient, right? So you're giving it context, okay? Pretty much, like you're giving it context, right? As a medical doctor, explain the symptoms of diabetes to a patient. So now it has context that it's probably going to be in the room with someone, telling them the symptoms, right? That's a context that you're giving it, right? And now it knows that, okay, I'm a doctor, right? So when it's giving the response, it's going to give the response as a doctor, right? Not just as like a student, right? So tone, okay. So it knows, okay, well, if I'm in the room with the patient and I'm a doctor, I should have this tone, right? Now, you can also improve this by just giving it the tone, right? But it'll already be able to pick up what tone it should have by itself, right? And then task specification, right? So it knows now, okay, I have to explain the symptoms of diabetes to a patient, right? And pretty much by doing this, it's going to give you out a quality response, right? So moving down to style and tone guidance, right? Which this is just specifying the desired style and tone which can make the AI's response more human-like. Now, this is going to be really big when dealing with conversational AI, right? But a rundown would pretty much be, for example, using formal language to describe how to bake a cake, right? So now, when you're describing how to bake a cake, right, it's typically done in a more, I would say, fun environment, right? It's not going to be like a hard office setting, right? So because of that, it's going to be high in emotion, right? And it's going to be informal, right? Now, if you're going to do a sympathetic complaint response, right, that's going to be emotional and it's going to be formal, right? Now, giving a formal report, right, it's going to have a neutral, so it's not going to be emotional at all, and it's going to be formal. But if you ask for just a neutral instruction, right, it's going to be informal, but it's going to be neutral. So there's not going to be emotion. It's not going to be really office ready. So you can't just give it to your boss, pretty much, or just say it as a report. So few shot prompting is this is also, I would say this is also not very important, but it's pretty important with the AI. So if you want to give it examples, like when you're prompting the AI, you can give it examples of how to talk, how it should respond, right? When it's actually giving out its own response. So, for example, translate the following phrases to French: good morning, bonjour, and then how are you? It'll know to translate that one to French, and it'll just put it in this format too, right? It pretty much continues the pattern. So No, AI follows pattern with examples, provide examples in the prompt, AI identifies the pattern, AI continues the pattern, AI provides correct output, pretty much. So zero shot prompting is when you don't give the AI context of pretty much how to respond, right? There are no examples provided, and it's just relying on its own or on the model's pre-trained knowledge, right? Or in the case of Bland and Bland AI, it'll also rely on your knowledge base when it's given this response, right? So pretty much, list 5 ways to reduce carbon emissions. This would be your response. Then it goes to the model. It's like, okay, where are all the ways to reduce carbon emissions in my model, my model's knowledge base? And then from there, it'll list 5 of them, and it generates a response. Now, this isn't typically the best prompt. Then I would probably never use a zero-shot prompt when it comes to Bland AI, just because you want to eliminate the variables as much as you can. So, chain of thought prompting, right? So it pretty much just encourages AI to think through the problem step by step, which can enhance reasoning and it can also enhance the response it gives you, right? So you can make, for example, explain step by step how to solve this equation, right? And this is the equation that they're solving. Let me see, right there. That's the equation that they're solving, right? And then, boom. So it pretty much just works through it, right? It works through it, and then when it's giving you the response, it should be like, okay, this was step 1 I did. This was step 2 I did. This was step 3 I did. This was step 4. This was step 5. So this was the answer I got, pretty much. Which this probably not like, honestly, you probably would never use this with Bland AI. Right. So meta prompting, right? Okay. Let's just do it like this. Okay. Meta prompting, right? So it pretty much instructs the AI to reflect on itself before it gives you the response. For example, before answering, consider their potential biases in your response. So let's say you're asking a political question, right? If you tell it this, it'll then be like, okay, this is why I'm saying it. Maybe I'm biased in this section, because ChatGPT does have a bias in politics, right? So if you say this to it, it'll be okay. I have a bias, so maybe if I remove that bias, this will be the response, right? Now, a better prompt than this is just before answering, remove all bias in your response. That's a better prompt. But this one can also work too. But like I said before, it's iffy. It might give you the best response. It might not. It just depends, which is why you want to eliminate these variables in your response by just having a good response, right? But of course, if you wanted to list out, maybe you want to know the bias, right? Then this can honestly be a pretty good response in itself. So, achieving a human-like communication, right? Now, there's a section for how to do this in Bland AI. I'm not going to go into it right now, but this pretty much has its own section, right? So, as you guys know, human conversations involve turn taking, back channeling, and appropriate pacing, right? So to have this, you will want to use prompts that simulate dialogue, right? And you want to encourage the AI to ask clarifying questions when appropriate, right? So human conversation, and then there's all these things, right? Now there's a specific way to do it to Bland AI, and I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay, so incorporating emotional intelligence. Now, this is very important. So you don't have those cookie cutter responses where the AI just sounds like a robot. It lacks emotion, and you can just tell you're just talking to a robot, right? So you would pretty much input emotions like into the prompt. So, for example, respond with empathy to the following situation, or when like you can have this where when a client tells the AI its pain point, you can have the AI respond with empathy to that following pain point or to that situation, right? and then express enthusiasm in response just makes the AI seem excited, right? And by doing all this, you'll get a human-like interaction because it now has an understanding of emotions and is also expressing emotions, right? Which comes across as human. Now, context awareness is very important. You don't want the AI to just start talking. For example, let's say you have a lead that comes in from Facebook, and the AI just says, "It's great to see that you filled out our put out our form on our website," right? It's the wrong context, right? And but well, I didn't do that. Why are you calling me then, right? So you would want the AI to have the right context and the right prompting, pretty much, that contextualizes everything that the AI should know, right? Use anaphoria in a word that I cannot pronounce carefully to maintain coherence. Now, all this pretty much means is that when you're giving your prompts, let's say you've already given the ingredient, right? So the AI has given the ingredient, right? And on the next node, which I'll get more into what a node is later, but on the next node, right? Let's say you have a prompted to say, talk to him and tell him this, right? First of all, you don't want to say that because now the AI has to figure out, okay, who is him, right? It has to figure out who is him, which takes up time in its response and increases the response length. That's pretty much what it's saying. Now, cultural and social nuances, right? Now, this is really only important if you're going to be targeting multiple languages and multiple countries, right? Otherwise, it's not really important. But what this pretty much means is, let's say you're targeting Australia, Canada, the US, UK, and Germany, right? Now, obviously, they're going to have different slang terms, different local idioms, different dialects and traditions, right, and customs, right? So you don't want the AI to say one word that has like a different definition in a different language, because then they're gonna be like, okay, why is he cussing me out when the AI can only be saying like hello, right? Now that's just an exaggerated response, but you guys can get my point, right? So you just want to limit that and just have the AI pretty much just give ask and use general terms, right, that everyone can understand. Check that out. So avoiding uncanny responses, right? So overly formal or excessive verbose responses seem unnatural. It's not can seem, that they actually seem unnatural, right? So you want to encourage conciseness and the use of natural language, right? And you also want to avoid repetitive phrases and unusual syntax, right? So what this pretty much means is that when you're having AI, right, you don't want it to repeat back everything the customer has said, because after a while it gets repetitive and annoying, right? And it might be like, okay, why is he saying, or why is she saying, it depends on which voice you're using, right? Why is he saying everything I say back to me every single time? That's weird. It's annoying, right? It's not something a human would do. Then I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is an AI, maybe this is a computer, right? Or maybe they're very formal, right? So maybe after everything that they say, it's like, I understand, I understand. So, well, why you should understand? And my AI, okay, simple as that. Okay, sounds like a human. It's quick, and that can't really get repetitive, And I'll get more into how to actually prompt your AI so it can actually avoid this in Bland later. Okay, so advanced considerations and ethical implications, right? So bias mitigation, again, you want to be aware and you want to mitigate potential biases in your AI response. Privacy concerns. Now, luckily, Bland already handles the privacy, so you don't really have to worry about this. But transparency, so if the person on the phone asks, am I speaking to an AI? You don't want to lie. You be like, AI is an AI. Like, have the AI prompt it so that when asked if it's an AI, that it'll answer honestly that it is an AI, right? Because most people don't care if they're talking to an AI if the AI answers honestly when asked. Now, if the AI lies, then they'll have a problem with it, right? But if it answers honestly, they don't really care, from my knowledge or from what I've seen, and I've done over 10,000 calls. So limitations and challenges, right? So the AI may struggle with ambiguous prompts, right? Now, be mindful of the AI's training data limitations. So pretty much be mindful of its knowledge base, right? So pretty much vague language, right? So you don't want to have the AI have vague prompts. An example of this could be find out the user's location, right? Location is so vague because they can tell you, oh yeah, I'm in the US. That's their location. Or oh yeah, I'm located in Arizona. That's also their location, right? Or they can get more specific and tell you exactly what their home address is, right? But it doesn't matter which one that the user gives you, as long as they give you a location, the AI will take that and use that as their location, even if it's not specific enough for your use case. So now this is some you'll probably never see malicious prompts or inappropriate responses if you don't prompt it in yourself. Like the AI won't cuss by itself, so you don't have to worry about this. Knowledge cutoff, right? So when you have your knowledge base, you want to make sure that it is constantly getting updated. Now, there's a way to have your knowledge base get updated automatically, but I'm not gonna go into that right now, right? So pretty much just make sure that your knowledge base that the AI has is constantly being updated with accurate information. So if your offer changes, make sure that reflects in your knowledge base for your AI, right? And that just helps it so when the user asks a question, it's not giving them outdated information, right? And if you solve all of these, the AI will not struggle with prompt understanding, pretty much. Now, future directions, pretty much adaptive prompting. This is a more advanced technique, but you would pretty much just have the prompts adapt based on the user's information, right? So if the user, let's say the user isn't qualified for X, Y, or Z, the AI will then tell them something else or something different, right? Now there's ways to do this in just by doing it in the conversational pathways, right? With his pathing logic, but there's also ways to do it in the prompt itself so that the AI can use what was said in the prompt and how it responded in the prompt to go to a different conversational logic pathway. All right. And then personalization, right? So this is just telling the AI's response to individual user preferences. So if you just have a database of all the users' information, this can be useful for that, right? So multimodal integration, right? So incorporating auditory cues to enhance context, right? This just involves like making the AI laugh when needed, And then in conclusion, right? Effective prompting really just helps your AI respond to its best capabilities and accomplish the goal that you want it to accomplish, all right? In a I would say in the correct way. So yeah. Oh, and before I end this video, just remember that this document will be linked down below, so you can click on this document and it'll take you here, and then you can reread all of this yourself.